Hi everyone. We'll give a couple of minutes for others as well to join. In the meanwhile, I'll hand over to Krishna for moderation.
Thank you, Faraz, and good evening, everyone. I'm Krishna Desai. I'll be the moderator for the session, and I would like to welcome you all for the third webinar of the Mobilogues 2.0 of the Sumaka project of GIZ India on advancing gender inclusion in transport sector. India has been increasingly focusing on women led development as a central theme in its policies and programs, aiming to enhance gender equality, economic empowerment, and social inclusion. A wide range of initiatives and strategies across various sectors have been launched towards skill development and entrepreneurship. Promotion of self-help group, which have been instrumental in the employment of rural women, women education, strengthening of laws and policies related to domestic violence, sexual harassment at workplace, protecting women's rights and safety. Parallelly, several initiatives have also been undertaken for the recognition of trans persons and their empowerment and their access to rights and benefits. Despite these initiatives by the government, women and trans persons face discrimination and also remain vulnerable and marginalized. Today, we will discuss the key challenges these groups face while traveling in public transport and the initiatives various transport agencies are taking towards enhancing gender inclusion. Before uh, before we go and meet our interesting panel who are already here, I have a few slides which I would like to present with a few facts which might interest you. I'll just share my screen. Taras, can you confirm if this is
Yeah,
visible?
it's visible. You can just make it full screen.
Yeah. Yeah, is this good? Yeah, when we look at the female labor force participation in India, we see that India has one of the lowest female labor force participation in the world at around 30%. When we compare it with the labor force participation of men in India, it is around 75%. When we look at the sectoral split, we see that the manufacturing sector has the highest female labor force participation, and the transport storage and communication sector has the lowest, which is around 4%. The manufacturing sector tends to have a higher female labor force participation also because generally the distance to these sectors is quite less, because of which women prefer taking these kind of jobs, which is not seen in transport sector. Coming to the initiatives that the Indian government is taking towards empowerment of women and transgender, we see that they have taken several policies and schemes have been launched. In 2001, the National Policy for Empowerment of Women was launched, which aimed at protecting women from any kind of violence. It was 2011 when the transgender were first enumerated in the census as under the category of others. In 2013, the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act came into place. In 2013, also, the Nirbhaya Fund was set up, which aimed at improving the safety of women in public spaces. In 2014, under the NALSA Act, the trans persons were recognized legally as the third gender in India. In 2015, a dedicated to 24 by 7 women helpline scheme was launched. 2015 came the Skill India Mission, then the Maternity Benefits Act and the Transgender Persons Act in 2019, where the trans persons were given the access to the rights and the benefits. There are several factors which affects the female labor force participation, few of which include the social norms, safety concerns, poor first and last mile connectivity, skills, issues in the skills and training development, inadequate frequency of public transport system, household responsibilities, inaccessible public transport system, and absence of private vehicle. So here we can see that few factors are very intrinsic, but then there are a few factors such as the safety concerns and especially these transport related concerns which can be improved. When we look at these factors, we see that transport is often identified as a key factor which affects the female labor force participation. A low female inclusion is also seen in the transport sector itself at all levels. While this may be a little old data, but then a survey of around 30 Indian transit agencies was undertaken, in which we found only four had female leadership position. When we look at the female inclusion at the bus crew level, we see that the level does not. It is generally found to be between 0 to 10%, and it was highest for growth, which was an exception, which had a reservation of around 40% for women conductors. When we look at the women drivers, they are almost nil in most of these public transit agencies. So when we the low female workforce in transport sector impacts the infrastructure development. The infrastructure of the transport sector seems to lack a gender perspective, which results into unsafe transportation systems and impacts the women's workforce because of the restricted mobility. So this is why it is important to mainstream gender in the transport sector. Now, I would like to introduce to the panel. Today, we have with us Ms. Carolina Martinez from La Rolita. We also have Ms. Melina, who is the legal representative of La Rolita and will be helping us in the translation. We have Ms. Charlene Kouaoussi, who is from Moving On. We have Ms. Rajni Tiwari from Green Cell Mobility. We have Mr. Yogesh Kumar from Even Cargo, and we have Ms. Maya from Tweet Foundation. I would also request all of you to give a brief introduction about yourself and about the work that you have done in the gender space in less than 1 minute each. Ms. Maya, I would request you to go first.
Thank you. Good evening, all. Myself, Maya Awasthi. I am a trans woman working for the community from last 20 years. I'm a founder of Transgender Welfare Equity Foundation, which work for trans men, trans women, and other identity of trans. We run a shelter home, which is our USP project in India. And apart from that, we do lots of skilling work and make transgender capacitate in such a way that they get an employment. Till now, in last 3 years, we have recruited 180 transgenders in the corporate and also help around 100 trans people to get back to the education sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Yogesh, I would request you to introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening everyone. I'm Yogesh Kumar. I work with Even Cargo. Even Cargo is
Yogesh, I think there's some issue with your voice.
I don't know, is it better? I didn't know English, but yeah, I still expect it to be better. Can you hear me now better?
I can hear, but then I think it's going for everyone.
Yeah, it's the same for me. It's a strange voice that you have, Yogesh.
The same for
Yogesh, can
us.
you try to join again? Till then, maybe I'll request Rajni to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Rajni Tiwari. I have been working very closely with people across genders with different passion, and at Green Cell specifically, driving passion with purpose. And DNI for me is something which stands very, very close to my heart. Much before it became a KRA for a lot of HR leaders, I try and drive diversity and inclusion by first fostering an environment of inclusion. Really look forward to everybody's views and a lot of learning.
Charlene, if you can go next.
Yeah, hello everyone again. I'm Charlene Kouaoussi, and I'm part of a business-led ecosystem dedicated to sustainable mobility called Moving On. I'm based in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and I've been promoting inclusive mobility ever since I've started the journey in the sector 4 years ago, working also closely with Women Mobilize Women, women in logistics here in Côte d'Ivoire, and other movements. So it's a pleasure to share the passion and to see how we can advance gender inclusivity in the transport sector.
Carolina, I would request you to go next.
Hi, my name is Carolina Martinez. I am the CEO of La Rolita. Excuse me, English. A transportation operation company. I am industrial engineer and a high master degree in strategic management. Milena, ¿me vas a ayudar de pronto un poco más?
Sí, so my name is Milena Jaimes, and I'm gonna help Carolina to translate a little bit about her profile. So she has 23 years of experience leading work teams with more than 5,000 workers in the mass passenger transportation sector. As she said, she's the general manager of La Rolita, the third district public transportation operator, which she is leading the transformation of the mobility sector with the use of clean energy multimodal transportation. So this is the profile of Carolina. My name is Milena Jaimes. I'm the head of legal of La Rolita as well.
Thank you, Melina, and it's great to have you here as well. I guess Yogesh has not joined back, but then I would like to introduce him. He's the founder of an organization called Even Cargo. So Even Cargo helps in training. They basically identify women and they train women in getting onto the last mile logistic delivery sector. So basically, they have tie-ups with different companies who work in the last mile delivery sector, and they support them in identifying and getting these women on board. So I think he will, of course, be telling more about his organization when he comes in. But then let's start with the panel discussion. And I would request all the participants to please engage and interact with amongst yourself. You can, of course, put questions on the chat, which we will take towards the end of the session. And also, if there's interesting facts with everyone, they can post on the chat as well. So first, I would like to start with Charlene. So we have talked about, we know about the issues that Indian women are facing in the public transport sector, and while traveling but we would like to know that what kind of issues do women face in Africa when they travel in public transport system, and if you can elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna, for the question. First, I would like to mention a simple fact that 70% of African population are women and youth. So women represent more than half of the global population, as well as the main users of public transport and public spaces, including in Africa. And yet, they are facing multiple mobility, representation, safety, and even design challenges because of unadapted transport systems and vehicles in our cities. And as you probably all know, mobility patterns of women are different than men's due to their responsibilities of spouses, mothers, daughters, housewives, and have to make multiple trips in a day using different modes, which makes their mobility journey more complex. And that need to be taken into account in design and infrastructure of services provided by the city. So for decades, African people have been living in cities inadequately planned for them to feel safe and simply enjoy public spaces, especially for women and children. The example of the absence of pavements and street lightnings in most parts of the cities is a problem for all, especially at night, but it has more impact on on women who are exposed to gender-based violence and sexual harassment. I'll take the example of Uganda. Women more often walk and travel by taxi or bus with lower use of motorcycles, taxi, and women tend to head home early than men to avoid night time travel. And there's a research conducted by the Flown Initiative, a nonprofit based in Kenya, also highlights that sexual harassment is a significant barrier to achieving a safe and inclusive public transport system there in Kenya, affecting women both as commuters and as workers. And it is the case in the whole continent. And indeed, stereotypes persist, but also social, cultural, and religious stigma. I must say that I was really touched at the last ITF summit, the International Transport Forum, in May this year, during a session co-organized by the GIZ, by the way, and by Tumi, Give Voice to the Voiceless. There was a woman driver from Morocco that was actually saying that a male passenger told her that he felt that this was a man driving driving the bus. So it means that we still have a long way to go, because she was probably I don't know, like driving well for him, or too well for him to be a woman driving. So it shows that we still in the continent need to break down this stereotype, is this barrier. And fortunately, this debate around empowering women, but most importantly, equality and justice for all, including access to opportunities, training, skilling, is more and more present in the sector. There's the example of Nigeria, for example. I don't know how much time I have, Krishna, but don't hesitate to stop me if I'm too long. I'll take the example of Nigeria with the Empower project that they have, with the main output being the She Can tool. It's a user-friendly, web-based resource assisting policymakers and transport providers to develop an evidence-based approach to address sexual harassment and personal security within public transport. And the She Can tool had a really great impact on the Urban Mobility Authority of Lagos metropolitan area, and on policies as well towards gender inclusivity within the organization, but also outside. And it has won senior director support internally to integrate gender in transport aspects to the organizations. And as a result, a new policy to recruit female bus drivers and conductors has come into effect. So these initiatives also contributed to build a momentum with a pilot project called Inclusive Interchanges, still carried out by Lamata, the authority, that focuses on interchanges, which are a focal part of city life, where urban design, fleet operations, digital services, and management layers meet. But as you probably all know, transport system in Africa are dominated by popular transport, which are the main mobility provider and employer as well in the cities. But they are still unregulated, unsupported, and not always safe for people, especially for vulnerable groups like mobility impaired people or women. So the majority of the transport projects, like the one I just mentioned with Lamata, are targeting the formal sector, and not the popular transport sector. So this is also something that we need to look at to really impact the system, to professionalize, to regulate, and to support this popular transport sector, which is a priority. And I will stop there, and maybe I'll have other opportunities to develop on other aspects.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlene. I think I totally agree that, although women are around 50% of the population, somehow we have still become the marginalized group somehow. From Charlene, I would now like to go to Maya, and we would like to know more about the issues and challenges that trans persons face while traveling in public transport systems and public spaces, and what kind of interventions can maybe help trans persons feel less vulnerable while traveling.
So, thank you. My only question is like, before coming to this answer, my only question is like, how many of us see trans person? I'm talking about the Indian context per se. As per the India, how many of us see trans people traveling in a public transportation? I'm going to say, being a trans, I myself don't prefer to go into public transport for the only reason because safety is the major concern. The one of the safety security of trans person is a major concern. Uh, for the reason there are laws regarding women if any harassment or anything is done, but there is no strict law in spite there being a transgender act, but then in India, but then till date it been 3 years, transgender act has been implemented by government of India, but then there is no case has been registered under transgender act. So vulnerability of trans person is high. uh, they prefer to go and take a Uber or a cabs or a auto rickshaw so that they feel safe because we are not for people, we are just a substitute for women, because we if we shout also, we scream also, no one will consider that it has been the people who touched us. They will always say that you instigated them and attracted them towards yourself. So that's the one of the problem. What thing we see is public transportation in local trains in specifically when I'm talking about Mumbai, we see they do come and they do come for begging. But in how safe are they in while they do this thing? Because there are multiple cases where you see uh, they have been manhandled by people. Second thing is they has been thrown away from running a local train. They've been cheated by people, looted by people in the train. So I mean, say there is no safety and security when it comes to transgender. Also, in a if you say a local, if you see buses, there is a reservation for women. But when a trans woman want to sit there, it will not be accepted by even a woman that this is not for you, this is for us. I want to say when our National Women Council have considered trans women as a woman, but within the society, women have not yet included us within the women category. So there is a high risk of traveling into any public transportation for any trans person. This is I'm talking about trans women like me who are very out and open, and like people like me who can be out. But we are talking about other trans identity. We are talking about trans men. There are lots of trans men who travel, but then if they are pre-operative, there is a risk of trans men traveling in the local transportation or public transportation. Post we are talking about post-operative trans men. They look very similar with like a cis men, and they can gel, or they can what you say merge with the the cis men. But when it comes to non surgery or the pre-surgery trans men, uh, uh, and they have higher risk of, because their body is of the anatomy and body look like of they're not didn't look they don't look like, but they are particularly female. That's the one thing. What about the non gender conforming people? How are they comfortable in traveling? Because they can't talk about they're not in one of the binaries of men or women. They may look like a cis men, but they are not comfortable to be a man. So non-binary or a gender non-conforming is also another challenge for them. So most of the time, any trans person of any identity will always prefer to go for a private transportation compared to a public transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. I think that was I think this is something we have not talked about, so it was really interesting to hear about this. Now, I would like to go to Ms. Rajni, Dr. Rajni. I think many organizations are working towards enhancing gender inclusion, and Green Cell has also taken several such kind of initiatives towards gender inclusion and towards making and towards improving the safety of women while they are traveling in the public transport system. And we would like to hear more about it. If you can elaborate about it, Rajni.
Sure. Thanks, Krishna. So, I'll answer your question too first, that what are we doing for the safety of women? So for us, the very ethos of this organization, which I represent, Green Cell Mobility, is safety before revenue. And this is something which we follow in letter and spirit. Now, when I say that, we talk about safety, which is first letting people be comfortable the way they are, something which Maya has highlighted. So we are okay. As Maya had last leg, she was talking about the fact that people would be out of the closet or they would not want to disclose. But for us, each passenger who's there is equally important. Coming specifically to mobilize and channelize, I'm very happy to share that Green Cell Mobility has more than 33% of women who travel and who are unique travelers every time. And the repeat is as good as 38 to 39%. So, people, the way somebody has taken a ride with Green Cell, they would want to come again. Why? Because there is always, when you're booking ticket as a woman, the minute you disclose your gender, we say if it is a woman or are any other friends who are there disclosing or not disclosing their genders, if we this is how it is earmarked, that a seat next to the women will be given to a woman, first thing first. Second thing, they get a call to say that if you're traveling alone, once you've seen that it is only one ticket booked, we say that if you're traveling alone, we will take care of these services. Please be very sure these are the emergency and other protocols. So that also gives you a feeling of and a sense of safety. Third thing, which is very, very essential, is we have women cabin hosts who are there in the buses, and they will ensure, what does a woman do? What is so beautiful and different about a woman? If you see a latest campaign which we had run, women are very naturally able to take care because of their basic nature, their character, their DNA, which is of being a mother. So, it comes very naturally to us. Very importantly, when we also say that, if somebody is feeling, there is a young passenger who's probably traveling for the first time, we try and give them a pep talk and say that, don't worry, we will be. And I can share a testimony of one sort. Very recently in Bhopal, when we were moving from our lounge and we were going, Bhopal is a city in Mumbai, in India, just for the benefit of the crowd. So we saw that a particular gentleman dropped his daughter and he would then move on. And then when we were trying to talk to the gentleman, he said, thanks to your services, earlier I would wait till my daughter has boarded the bus and also 15 minutes later checking with her on the phone. So safety is paramount to us. It is most essential to us. First thing. Second, now talking about how do we make that environment inclusive. I'm happy to share, we ran this as a campaign. So for us, inclusivity started as a journey. So while we started, we have been operational for 3.5 years, but about a year we took to first build an environment when people start respecting each other, irrespective and beyond gender. The respect and dignity is beyond gender. It's for everybody, and it's everybody is asked. And once this emotional ask of respect and dignity is handled, we said we are ready now to take our friends. We have partnered with Maya's foundation also. We have a lot of other people who are there. And a lot of our friends who are trans activists, they help us, they support us. But what we have done as an organization, they are all in customer facing roles. Why are you shying away to hide? We have a bus which had a trans man or a trans woman driver, a coach captain. Well, mind me saying that because we don't address them as drivers; they are coach captains for us. And then what is most important is that they are also there as cabin hosts. We try to take care of that particular element. And now, how do you provide safety to your own employee? So at times when passengers are traveling, they will have some notorious remarks, like Maya said, it is beyond gender. It is beyond gender. But we ensure that we stand by that employee and we say, we will get you your due respect. We have at times blacklisted those passengers and they don't travel with us then. So it's a big call because it's revenue for us. But like I said, the ethos of this organization, the ethos of Green Cell, why I say working at Green Cell or channelizing Green Cell is passion with purpose, is purely because we believe safety first. Everything else will fall in. So, when you're building an inclusive environment, what is very essential is, have you sensitized your people? First and foremost, don't treat them differently. They are all a part of all of us. And once we know that everybody is a part of us, then you will handle everybody equal. Then there is no differential treatment required. So that is how, our journey has been. And we keep experimenting, we keep doing. We had also to just sensitize and let people know that's not a big deal. Like Charlene was sharing that, a women coach captain driving. It's not. I have women coach captains who are going intracity also. And we had run a bus, which was Delhi to Agra, say about 250 to 280 kilometers, a women coach captain, women cabin host, and all women passengers. It is booked in India Book of Records as well. And we didn't do it for a marketing gimmick to tell people they drive equally well. See the driving, don't see the gender. It is a journey. It's a journey globally. Trust me. It's not that India is facing it. I worked across the globe and I have felt that, the very fact that can you do it better? I think the very centrum of this is about demanding cerebral equality. You will never ask a coach captain who's a male or a man who you will say, wow, since how long have you been driving? You drive really well. But you will ask a few women coach captain, hey, how do you manage such a 16-ton vehicle? Why? We are not saying we are equal to you in terms of muscle power. We are talking about cerebral equality. Not that difficult. Thanks.
Thanks, Rajni. Rajni, just one more question, one follow-up question
Sure.
to you. How you told that you have included trans person as the customer facing, in the customer facing roles. So how have the passengers received them? We would like to know. Of course, you talked about a few incidents, but then in general, how have they been received?
See, contrary to the disbelief most of us have that people would react differently, today people are more aware. I have a younger population which moves in. The younger India is more entitled India. They are more aware India. So for us, it has been very pleasant. Like I have somebody who has, who has also come back and commented that wow, this is so incredible the way the way this particular person is taking care, or I didn't know that my bus was driven by trans men. So what I'm trying to say is that today it is not it is not limited to the gender. I think people have become more conscious, more aware. Our youth is more conscious, more aware, and I strongly believe to each one his own. If somebody does not want to disclose his or her gender, we should be okay with it. We should not force people to come out of their closet because it's not right. It is your own uniqueness. And the more you kind of accept people with your uniqueness, that becomes your strength.
I think very rightly said, Rajni. Now I would like to go to Carolina. So Carolina is from La Rolita, sorry, and they have shared a small video with us, which we would like to play on what they do. So Faraz, if you can please play the video.
No listen.
Can you see the screen? Krishna?
Yes, we can. Yes,
We
we can
can
see
see the
the
screen, but you have to play the video because we can
Yes.
listen.
Yeah. I think the audio is not there.
Oscar. So you go into
Audio is not coming, is it?
No, audio is
No.
not
Oh,
coming for us.
It's not working.
just a
Mire, tienen que dejar de compartir y compartir con audio.
Okay, I think Farah, you might have to stop sharing and you can share the video with the audio.
Sound,
Like
yeah.
that. Yes.
Perfect.
I used to work at a kids' clothing manufacturer. My schedule was very demanding and I did not have any legal benefits. If I wanted to get enough money for paying a rent, I had to work very hard. I had my baby and she got sick, so I had to quit my previous job to provide all the care for her. I like La Rolita because working here allows me to have more time for my family, my daughter and myself. Unlike my previous job where time was very limited. In my previous job, I never had the opportunity to access a home loan, but at this company, they have been very supportive and thank God I already have a home. My story is similar to the story of Sandra, Lina, and hundreds of other drivers at La Rolita, who are mothers and heads of households and who used to work in different trades, including unpaid jobs. We found in La Rolita an opportunity to improve our income and life quality. We belong to a group of 285 women drivers who daily use the buses to transport more than 53,000 users on 10 routes that travel in 17 localities, zonal territorial divisions of Bogota. In just 22 months, La Rolita has created 600 formal jobs approximately. And La Rolita is transporting the residents of 21 neighborhoods in Ciudad Bolívar with 185 electric buses, avoiding 2 million tons CO2 emissions since the beginning of its operation.
Anteriormente tenía que desplazarme a pie hasta la autopista o la autopista hasta acá arriba. Ahora pues la comunidad está muy contenta, muy satisfecha de tener este transporte porque realmente nos facilita los transbordos para que nos dejen en el sitio que nosotros querramos, o sea, en mi casa, ahí en la casa prácticamente.
Los adultos mayores con la rolita se han beneficiado ya que han sido para ellos un impacto social en sus vidas. Se han podido movilizar con mayor facilidad, ya que antes tenían que tomar 2 o 3 rutas para llegar a la localidad. Ya con las rolitas se les ha hecho más fácil, de hecho que pues el pasaje ha sido más económico y han llegado pues más temprano a los talleres que tenemos acá en Sierra Morena.
If you still don't know La Rolita, we invite you to get on our buses, recharge your batteries, and meet the team who works every day to provide you with a clean and quality transportation service.
Thanks, Faraz. I think we came to know what La Rolita does, and I think it's a bus. It's a private operator for bus service, and I think they have managed to include a huge number of women into their service. From Carolina, we would like to know, how the idea of women inclusion was conceived for your company, and how easy or how difficult was it to come? Was it to convince these women to come on board? And can you also talk about the initiatives that you have taken up to include these women into the services?
Claro, te toca hablar un poco del tema de la inclusión, un poco de cómo ha sido el tema de la contratación de todas estas mujeres. Yo creo que eso es como lo principal en este momento y, a ver, vas diciendo, yo voy traduciendo. Empecemos con el tema de la inclusión. So I'm gonna start with the topic of the inclusion of women. So Carolina is gonna start speaking in Spanish, and I'm gonna translate to English for you guys.
Bueno, La Rolita es la primera empresa pública de transporte en la ciudad de Bogotá y tiene está basada en dos parámetros cuando fue su creación: la sostenibilidad con una flota 100% eléctrica y equidad de género. Si quieres, no, mire, no tenés,
Es en
no te
cuanto al tema de
escuchamos bien. Ya,
inclusión, listo. ¿Empiezo?
sí,
So, La Rolita is the first public transportation operator with 100% electric fleet and a commitment to gender equity. Is the sixth entity attached to the mobility sector of Bogotá. For La Rolita, inclusion is a fundamental process that creates a work environment where all workers feel valued, respected, and accepted for who they are and to descend. La Rolita promotes and provides spaces with guarantees that each person has the same opportunities to actively participate, contribute their ideas, and be included in the decision-making process that has an impact on their well-being and that of others. Ahora, Caro, and I'm going to translate now about the sustainability of La Rolita. Si quieres, di, Caro, y yo, cómo ha sido también el tema de cómo has hecho para que atraigas mujeres al tema de La Rolita.
Bueno, primero, pues La Rolita es una empresa que atrae porque le dimos la oportunidad no solo a mujeres, sino también tenemos un tema de diversidad, equidad e inclusión. Entonces tenemos una población de jóvenes, adultos mayores, mujeres, y ya hoy día nuestras conductoras son el 62% de los conductores son mujeres. Entonces les dimos la oportunidad a estas mujeres, jóvenes y hombres y otras poblaciones para que se pudieran vincular a este sector de transporte.
For us, it has been a great challenge to attract women to this sector due to public transportation has been a traditionally male-dominated sector. We started a program with the ECO program, was the first to help women become operators, and inviting all women with a license called C1 here in Colombia, who, regardless of their experience, wanted to drive buses to provide public transportation services in the city. In Colombia, we have in La Rolita especially, we have 62% of our drivers are women. So it is like a big deal here in Bogota to have this kind of number of women transportation and drivers here in Bogota as well. La Rolita, together with the Mobility Secretariat and the Women's Secretary with the and C40, managed to bring together 550 women who receive economic support, specialized training in driving, psychological support, and resources to recategorize her driving license with the objective to become zonal operators. So for us, the topic of women here in Colombia and especially in Bogota has become a very important deal, especially as I said before, this sector always has been for like a marginalized for and especially for men, and also it's like I have a really big impact because nowadays La Rolita is recognized all over the world because it's not only about women and recognized they can be operators. It's also about the inclusion because we have also men and also people transgender working for us. I'm sorry for my
Thanks.
English people.
Thanks, Carolina. Thanks, Milena. I think it's a great initiative and it's a great feat to actually achieve this number that you are telling. Now, I would like to come to Yogesh. If you can tell us more about your organization and the work that you are doing towards including more women in the last mile delivery sector. Yogesh, over to you. We have had a brief introduction about you, but if you can, if you want to introduce yourself, please feel free.
Sure. I'll briefly introduce myself. Am I audible now? Sorry for the issue. So I work with Even Cargo. Even Cargo is a social enterprise. So we train women for non-traditional livelihood. So the basic aim of our existence is how do you overcome gender norms by bringing women into professions that have been traditionally inaccessible to them. So like the word delivery is pretty much synonymous with boy. You would always say delivery boy, delivery boy. We thought that why only boys? And in 2016, when we started, we introduced women in the e-commerce logistics space. So basically, we mobilize, train, and employ women for last mile logistics delivery job role. So that is what we have been doing for the past 8 years.
Okay. And Yogesh, we would also like to know that how you have narrowed down to these job roles. Why are these the only kind of roles that you have identified? And what kind of initiatives have you taken, or does your partner agencies with whom you are partnering for getting these women on board to ensure that these women can sustain these kind of jobs and ensure their safety, of course?
Yeah, like Rajni mentioned, for us as well, safety was paramount. So when we started, we only started with organization which only deal with women product like Fly Rope. Back then in 2017, we delivered for Clovia, which is an online lingerie brand. We identified areas which are safer for women to drive. Precisely the reason we don't work in the food delivery in the quick commerce space. So we only work in the e-commerce space wherein we already know on what route the delivery partner would be going. Uh, Apart from that, I think over the past 8 years, there were many challenges working with even our partners. But slowly and gradually, I think we as an organization act as a bridge between women who are looking for employment and corporates who are looking to employ women. But one of the major problem that we have faced in the past 8 years is that of retention. So we have worked really hard on making sure that women are retained in these professions. There is something called gender intentionality. So we help our partners to build on gender intentionality, wherein we kind of help them with making the infrastructure more gender inclusive. Uh, when we started in 2016, there were not even women washrooms in the hubs where women operate. So nobody ever thought that women would actually come and work in these spaces. So I think our work is multifold. We work with communities to mobilize and train women. We work with corporates to make sure that women are retained, and then with women themselves to make sure that they progress in their career path. The idea is not to always make them do one job that is of delivery. So we want them to progress over the period of time.
I think very interesting points made, Yogesh. Rajni, to you, I would like to ask same question that how do you ensure the retention of women in these job roles, women and trans persons in these job roles? What kind of training do you provide to them, and what kind of infrastructure facilities did you have to develop for including them into the job roles?
So honestly, for women and my LGBT group, I mean, the first thing was yes, infra readiness, because you need to understand from the basics that whether a trans man leads, whether a trans woman leads, and so on and so forth. So it is a whole journey. There is so much to learn and discover. We are everyday learning, if I can put it this way. But yes, we started with something which was called an HR cohort. We have a person dedicated in HR who is working very closely with women and LGBT in terms of being directly respondent to them if they have any need. We consciously speak to them one-on-one basis, the daily huddles, understanding, because the need can be as basic of not doing an early morning roster because they have to prepare tiffins for their family members. You see, you are not here to revolutionize her way of how she is at home. You want to revolutionize, you want to channelize that she is able to get an environment where she can work. I think, the point should be that. And to help her, if she feels that she wants to make a tiffin and she does not want an early morning roster, it was a fair deal, probably at times saying that if I am working a particular number of hours and b particular number of hours are better, I would say lesser or more, we have accommodated, tried to, apart from women coach captains, our cabin hosts and our customer service people, we try and give them that flexibility. If they want to study further, if they want to experiment different roles, we have a hybrid environment. We try and give a lot of flexibility. See, flexibility keeps you open. Now, this flexibility can be about the routine number of hours. It could be about a routine thought process that how should the skill developed for this particular thing. Robust training in terms of, we have something which we have recently been working on, is very dear to my heart, is first time women manager. How do you become a manager? What are the things? Because it's not necessary that you're trying to dabble between a biological and a career clock. It's not necessary. It's not a taboo that if you want to be a good professional, you can't be a good mother. It should not be like that. Or somebody who wants to pursue an extra co-curricular interest. Why? But the idea is I specifically spend a lot of time with our women employees and our LGBT employees and tell them, you don't have to be best. You don't have to be best at everything, because then that is putting too much pressure on you. You just need to know that you have to be yourself, and we acknowledge that. I think one very fundamental thing over years I realize, and it's across genders, even with our men employees, only work on their strengths. So if you think the strength is that she will be able to take the bus in the right way, if a depot duty is better, or if a short term duty is better, and she will be able to operate more with you because she's working shorter hours. See, you have provided that opportunity for employment. Now it's a journey. You cannot say that today, when you've come, you start doing the cycle of a longer route or something, because she is coming out of, see, mind you, but this is also coming out of the social closet of people putting pressure at a women or an LGBT. We need to be cognizant of the fact that everybody will get their due, but it takes time. It's a journey. We all are doing so much, but yet we all know it's not even that small drop in the ocean, because the problem statement is so huge. It is, see, any problem which is to deal with emotions and human values is always huge. So how do you deal with it? You have to deal with it in piecemeal. If you try and attack it together, it becomes a little challenge, because that's not how you would be really, able to create a change. You need to steer a change. But for that change, first you be the change. You say, yes, you work flexi, you work hybrid, you will attend these training, I will tell you how to become a good manager. I will give you that horizon. And at the same time, we are very conscious of our pay fairness. Is equal or more for the other genders? Because all these things contribute. When somebody is coming out of, a tier 2, tier 3 city, and first women of that house working, you have to give that environment. And that is why their feeling safe at work, emotionally and physically, is very important. So these are certain things which we are doing time and again.
Thanks, Rajni. I think I really liked your point that we should work on our strengths and it's not important to be best at everything. Coming back to Charlene, we know that Africa is becoming the hub of innovations. You have already talked about a few initiatives that different agencies are taking in Africa, but we would like to know more if there are any notable initiatives that you would like to mention about the government and the private sector is taking towards gender inclusion and safety, and especially considering the transition to electric mobility.
Yeah, Krishna. First, I would like to get back on the point on employment and retention, which is key, not only for the families, the communities, but also for the economy. In the investment or business side, we need to support more women entrepreneurs. The case of Rolita is just phenomenal. Like it's we don't see any examples of this proportion here in the continent. And what is clear is that there is less opportunity for women to be supported and financed than men. There's a $42 billion gender financial gap in Africa, all sectors included, which represent an untapped market for VCs. So we need to invest more in women entrepreneurs to unlock more percentage of the GDP and improve the living and economical conditions of thousands of families. So this is the point I wanted to make. But getting back on the examples of initiatives from government associated with the private sector. There's a lot of initiatives going on, mostly as pilot. So the issue here is to actually replicate and to scale up these pilots to make it bigger and to impact, I would say, a majority of people. There's one that I really liked. It was done a few years ago with the company Scania and the company Bosch as well, and the government technical training center in Ghana. It's a project called WATA, the West Africa Transport Academy project, and the idea was to actually improve the level of training for truck drivers, including women. And the research associated with the project highlighted the fact that there was a shortage of truck drivers and that hiring women could be one of the solutions to this shortage. So the study also demonstrated that women were driving safely, more safely than men, and their metrics were lower in terms of fuel consumption, engine running time, etc. And there's another example also in East Africa, which involves two startups, one NGO and the county of Kisumu, is the Sunrun project, the Sunrun partnerships, financed by P4G, which is pioneering green partnerships, investing in impact, which provides affordable, reliable, and sustainable transport solutions and other productive uses of renewable energy solutions, such as cold storage, for example, within the fishing community. So these projects impact the rural communities in Kisumu, and these partnerships also emphasizes the importance of building the capacity of organized groups of women and young people on electric mobility. You were mentioning that, Krishna. So this project is actually cross-sectoral, with battery swapping, charging activities, safely handling lithium-ion batteries as well, and cold storage solutions for fishermen. And the last example I wanted to mention is in Madagascar, Antananarivo, which was actually part of the project of Codatu, a French association for the popular transport operators, precisely minibuses lines that will allow women to be trained as driver. And it is a great example on how we can involve women in the industry. And maybe a last point, sorry, I thought the previous one was the last one, but precisely on electric mobility, we see that in East Africa, the sector and the projects are booming. There's plenty of initiatives like the one in Uganda, Women on Wheels and Zambo, a startup that has trained 25 women to provide motorcycle riding, first aid, financial literacy as well, gender-based violence awareness, and family planning as well. And other examples like that in Rwanda, for example, Safi, there's a lot of things to actually not only build a momentum, but to also train and empower women in the activities and allow them to seize opportunities and business markets that they couldn't just, I would say, have if this type of program didn't exist.
Thanks, Charlene. I think Carolina has raised her hand. Carolina, please.
Thank you. Creo que La Rolita es un proyecto que cualquier país, ciudad puede adoptar. Inclusive le permite a muchas ciudades empezar a cerrar esas brechas que hay, no solo
Lento
para
para
darles
yo
oportunidad.
traducir.
no solo para
So,
darle oportunidad a las mujeres. Dale, Mile,
so,
porfis.
so La Rolita is like a good program that any country around the world could adopt. And especially is like allowed to close this bridge or this, I don't know how to say, but it's like this bridge between women and men. And also you can use it not only in India, also in Africa and all over the world, because the important thing about La Rolita is like we took these women that usually they don't know how to drive. Usually they were living like in the streets. We have like women that used to live in the streets, women that only have like the household and only have to do like work in the house. But with La Rolita, we empower these women to to create like opportunities for them and have the chance also to drive these kind of buses like 100% electric, and for them is like to be empowered, because usually they don't have like a job. They only have like they used to live like the guy, the man used to provide for them, and now they feel like oh, I can have a job, I can do this, it's like a great for them.
Ujú. Y adicional, creo que todas las empresas deberían continuar apoyando este tipo de proyectos, no solo empresas privadas, sino también las distritales y pues apoyos como GIZ, que nosotros también tenemos en Colombia, siguen haciendo abanderando este tipo de proyectos. Entonces, creo que este
Lento.
proyecto, si me preguntarían a mí si 100 veces lo volveríamos a hacer, 100 veces diría que sí, porque es una oportunidad para todo tipo de población y también ahora estamos vinculando migrantes de otros países también para conducir.
Eh, for Caroline, it's important to you, like to like if they ask to us again, if you want to continue this kind of program, we're gonna say yes, 100 times yes. For that, it's important as well, like NGOs like GIS, like has helped, like these kind of programs to empower women, to help them to like to also have this kind of drive license here in Colombia. And also all you guys are invited to Colombia to know this kind of program if you want to adopt as well in India, in Kenya. I used to live in Kenya as well, Charlene, in Kisumu especially. I used to live in Kisumu for when you start to talk about Kisumu, for me was wow. So it's really nice. You are all invited to Colombia, and we like to thanks as well to Krishna and Farad for this opportunity as well to participate and to let you people know about La Rolita in Bogota.
Thanks, Carlina. Just one last question. Laro Lita seems like a very interesting name. Is there a meaning to it also? Something related to inclusion?
No, La Rolita, La Rolita is like in Bogota, we call like the women here rolas.
Rolas.
So La Rolita is like for these all the women for Bogota. La Rolita is like oh, las rolas. So that is the meaning here in Bogota. Is like in the north coast of Colombia. You say costeñas for the women of the coast. So it's because of that. But it's like a really cool name here in Bogota.
Yeah, it is a very interesting name. Thanks, Carolina. Thanks, Milena. I think Charlene, last remarks from you, but taking the interest of in the interest of time, I would request you to be quick.
No, but sorry about that. I just wanted to add to Carolina that it's true that any projects like La Lorida can be actually put in place in any countries, but the problem is as I mentioned, the financing model, the business model that can be difficult to actually maintain. Political will as well, because La Lorita is a kind of national champion, as I understand, and even internationally. So the fact that we don't have this kind of mechanism here, and that the financing institutions don't really trust this kind of project to be put in place. It's true that there's an effort to include women as drivers. For example, there's the new BRT system in Senegal that includes women drivers. Uh, it's a great start, but the amount of women drivers that you have in La Rolita, which is enormous, it's it's not tomorrow that we will be able to do that in Africa if we don't have this political will and this gender inclusive approach in our system. That's what I wanted to point out.
No, I agree. The number. So I know that, many cities in India are also trying to get women drivers on board, but I know it has been difficult for all these cities. There are many reasons, of course, financial, even the training part. I think the training part and the regulatory barriers are also there, which makes it very difficult for women to come into this sector. But hence, big clap to Larolita for actually achieving this. I would like to close the session, but before closing it, I would like to go to Maya and, of course, take a few last words on, what kind of initiatives do you think any public transit agency should take to include more trans persons?
I think it's like, before government, it is, we don't wait for initiative to happen. It's like, we should start our own initiative. For example, like with green mobility or Larolita, to have something, a task, or the employee or the staff from transgender community, which give the visibility to people that, and breaking the stereotype that these people are not only for sex work and begging, they are beyond that. I mean, that's the biggest myth we have to break when it comes to transgender person. We also have to make them aware that don't only stereotype, think of one particular identity when it comes to trans. Don't only look for Asia culture or the Asia people. There are lots of people there. What we did it, we got lots of call from the corporate saying that we want night shift drivers. Do you have any trans person who want to drive, who can do a night shift drive? And we said we don't have, but we would like to create a task of the trained workforce employees who can be later been taken by the organization. And they're like, no, 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 we don't have that much time. But we didn't stop there. Today we have trained 10 trans people, including trans men, trans women, non-binary in Mumbai and Delhi, by Maruti driving school. Irrespective, we know when there will be time when we will go to. Now, Rajini, I'm coming back to you. That I have a task force now. Now I can get back to you, saying that look, we have trained people who can drive, and uh, or getting the Lalorita concept in India, where people can understand that it's not about the woman who is driving, it's a trans woman or a trans man who is driving, and it is it. I'll tell you something. Before government started, we started a shelter home. Before government started, we started the training the trans people in four-wheeler. So we don't wait for government to start something. We are so we are the mad people house working here. We always work we are always futuristic, and we work on such initiative. So I have I can even go for, like, irrespective to the regulatory and the government issues, get into something called as a private bus fleet, which can go and work or the entire task force by a trans people. So, for example, driver, the coach, hostess, that's what Rajini specified out. Everyone, the depot manager, everyone will be the trans person. And this is what we have shown in Delhi at Noida, one of the metro station where every employee is trans people. So this is what the future which we think it, and with the help of so many beautiful people here and inspiring stories, I think it will be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you everyone for making time and coming to this discussion. I think it was a very interesting conversation with all of you. And I would also like to thank all the participants for joining this session. And yeah, I think we would like to, in the interest of time, would like to close this session now. And we would also like to announce for our next webinar, which is on 30th July, which will be on Living Lab Basics. So I would request you all to again, join in for our next webinar. And again, thank you everyone, and glad to have you here.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. We all have similar stories, similar challenges, but I think what makes us unique is we all want to make the change.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna.
Absolutely.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Have a good day, everybody.